Yeah.
Okay. Do I go now?
Yeah.
Not? Okay. So what I noticed is that the two different skills were being taught, KWL and the retelling, beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
And the K has nothing to do with the beginning of the story. The W doesn't have anything to do with the middle, the L, what they learned.
Okay.
So we've done a lot of beginning, middle, and end. But before you even start a book, give a little background. I like how you gave the vocabulary, discuss the vocabulary, give a little background about it, and just say, today we're going to read a story about Martin Luther King Jr., okay? I know we've read a few stories about Martin Luther King Jr. Who can tell me what they remember about Martin Luther King? You don't have to do the KWL. Just say that as you're on the floor, okay? So today our focus is on retelling, and we're going to use the words beginning, middle, and end, and first, next, then last. What does it mean when we retell the story? Oh, we put the things in order, the way that they happened, the way that the events happened in the story. Okay, and then you would have begin, middle, and end, first, next, then last. Okay, so that's our focus today. So we're going to start right now with the beginning of the story. Okay, who do we usually see in the beginning of the story? Oh, we meet the characters, we meet the setting. The setting changed a lot though in the story. So after you read the beginning of the story, okay, we just read the beginning of the story. Turn and talk to your partner about what happens in the beginning of the story, okay? Then they turn and talk to the partner, okay? Now we're gonna read the middle of the story. There's usually a problem in the middle of the story. So then you read the middle of the story. And then, okay, boys and girls, what happens in the middle of the story? Turn and talk to your partner, then they share. Okay, now we're going to read the end of the story. It's usually how they come to a solution. Okay, so you read the end of the story. Again, turn and talk to your partner. Who can tell me what happens at the end of the story? Okay, then afterwards, you might have your questions, your open-ended questions that you want to ask. And then you would give the retelling. Okay, boys and girls, we're going to get into our groups. You know, my red group and my green group, this is what you're going to focus on. My green group is going to focus on using words first, next, then last. So you tell them what they're going to do before they actually go to the seats. Otherwise, they're going to be asking 1,000 questions. Okay? So the KWL just totally confused them. They didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, because usually KWL is what they know about that person, what they want to know, what questions they have, and what they learned. And you gave it to them, and it has nothing to do with what the skill was. So I guess it was, kids were confused, I was confused. It has nothing to do with beginning, middle, end. That's totally two different things. If you're going to focus on, you have to focus on one skill, that was retelling. Okay? So you can retell, like we said, okay, this is the beginning of the story, they turn and talk to the partner. Middle and end. So they know what to do when they go back to their seats.
Understood.
Okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions about that, or?
I understand it's more like to break it down for them.
Right.
And actually have it step by step.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Is it possible just to jot down those?
Yeah, so
couple
two
things?
different skills were, you did the turning and talking, but introduce, okay, this is going to be the beginning of the story. So introduce each section, beginning, middle, and end, read it, and then have them turn and talk. Have them, after you read, turn and talk to the partner about what happened in the beginning.
Okay.
And same thing for middle. Okay, boys and girls, now we're going to read the middle of the story.
Okay.
You read it again, have them turn and talk to the partner, and then share. Then continue. Same way with middle and end. I like how the vocabulary words were introduced beforehand, and the kids did turn and talk to the partners. A lot of things that they like to see is open-ended questions. Why is it important to be able to retell a story in order? That could have been another important question. Like open-ended questions, they want more than just like a one-word answer, like to get them to really think. So that could be at the end of
Yeah, because
the lesson.
during the story, I asked them about what the events happened, and it seemed like some of them knew exactly what happened.
Well, they also know the story too. They're familiar with the story, and they're familiar with Martin Luther and what he did too.
Right.
Yeah, it's just the whole KWL just honestly threw me off. I didn't know what was going on because usually I thought maybe you had changed the lesson entirely and that you weren't doing retelling. I thought maybe because when you were in groups, they're like, what do I do? I said, well, okay, I guess you have to write down what you know about Martin Luther King. And just, you have to focus on just one skill. If it's retelling, then that's what you focus on. Okay?
Got it.
All right. So these are just like some notes, open-ended questions. Why do you think Martin Luther King is an important man? Luther is an important man. Open-ended just gets them to think and talk more. Important man. What did he do? What did he do to help people? Like, what would you do if you were in a situation like that and you couldn't go to schools with other people? What would you do?
Based on these domains, where do I sit?
Well, are you able to redo the lesson or no?
No.
That's okay.
That's where I thought I was.
I would say that open-ended questions, it needs to be high level, like questions like this. Like, it's not yes or no, but just have them really to think. Engages students in the learning. They were confused about it. Okay, I agree. Communicates clear and accurately. Basic. Okay. Maybe basic. I would say for the open-ended questions, they expect a lot of us now to have more questions and let them to think. Okay, I would say proficient. Engages student learning. They did their turn and talk. You had a closure, so I would say that would be the same. Okay, I would keep that for provides appropriate feedback. Okay, that can stay the same, but flexibility and responsiveness, I would say basic. It's just we did modify the lesson for the kids. Just they didn't understand what they were doing. You know, especially with the two different organizers.
Good.
Okay, so there is like certain things that just needed to work on, like the open-ended questions. The failure to understand. They had no idea what they were doing in the beginning. And I wasn't even too sure either. You did bring a closure. I would leave that. You gave the feedback, but certain things I would just definitely change for that. Okay? But if you can, even see if you can redo it, or I don't know.
Yeah, let's just go through these questions quickly right here, and then we're done.
Okay.
Just basically starts from here.
Identify your, okay, so your
that's from
would be that you did introduce vocabulary, you did an introduction.
Yeah, that was more like, what is the question? I'll answer.
So, what do you think your glow was?
My glow was that I, how do you call it? I did introduce the vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
I had them understand that. During the story, I did give them positive feedback on them answering the questions correctly about the events of the story, and if they got half of it.
Okay. Oh, sweetheart. Hi. Hi. How are you?
Yeah. If they got half of it wrong, half of it right, I try to push them further to ask.
Okay, we need to stop that right now, actually. 'Cause I don't know what that's. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, what I can reinforce on is my timing, and sometimes basically my timing is my pace can be a little off.
Okay. So what do you think your next steps will be?
My next steps would be to pace my lessons a bit better. What else would I work on? I would work on maybe fleshing out the questions a little more.
Having more like open-ended questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though I had, if they were open-ended, I want to develop them a little more.
Okay.
That's what I think. And
just really planning out the lesson ahead of time. That has a lot to do with everything, and knowing what you're going to do exactly, have your questions laid out. You had your grouping, but just like this skill, I just felt like, it could have just been more planned out and everything. And you just got to stick to one skill. You can't teach more than one skill. This is first grade. It takes them a little while also, and that's just one thing I would say, that the skill, like the lesson, was like that because you were trying to throw a lot at them, and they can do that.
Yeah.
Once, not only in any grade, you teach one skill. That's what you're really catering to, is teaching one skill. That's it.
They asked on the how do you call it, on the lesson plan. They just asked for a lot at once. Like I was going to make it completely simple and just have them read the story to them and have them peer in turn, and then work on the worksheets.
Okay.
That was my original plan for that. So I just had to add the extra steps because I was asked. But I after the whole thing, I understood that my original plan was much better.
Okay. Even just to start off as practice in like a small group now, even with the other teacher, start off with a small group. Try to have a plan. So, like have a book, have a lesson plan. Just keep practicing it for the remainder of the year. And then maybe eventually just practicing with a bigger group, in front of the whole class.
I understand. I guess what's the next question?
No, kind of really. Your next steps, pretty much.
What is this?
Your next steps.
Basically, my next steps is to create more lesson plans, a little bit more clearer, smaller, not so much information.
Okay.
Because I thought the lesson plan that I had to do write out was a little much. They asked language involvement. Well,
that's for them, but you need to narrow it down to how you're teaching, because you have 45 minutes in front of them.
Yeah.
So they need to do a lot of the work too. So that's just like for them, but you have your vocabulary, that's how you introduce it. You're introducing your book, you're teaching, you're going over this skill, and then you're reading the story. So that's really just kind of for them. I mean, no teacher sits here through 9 pages of lesson. You have to get a post-it or certain things and just jot things down that you're going to say. Okay, on a post-it, say this. There's no way that you can sit there with 9 pages. You need to know your lesson before you teach it in and out. Because there's also going to be interruptions from students all the time, as you say. And you can't let that throw you. You need to know exactly what you're teaching, what's the skill, what's the students, what strategy are they using to learn that. They have to know what they're going to have to do. Know the skill, know what you're teaching, know what the kids are going to be doing after.
Got it.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, nice working with you. These are actually all the questions. I have to go pick them up now. But
no problem. If there's any form, I'll pick it up.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I gotta go get them
No
really
problem.
quick.